princess, I'll prepare for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And all that life, fast, step out, don't feel
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
Release the princess, I'll prepare for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And all that life, fast, step out, don't feel
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
Release the princess, I'll prepare for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And all that life, fast, step out, don't feel
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
Release the princess, I'll prepare for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And all that life, fast, step out, don't feel
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
Release the princess, I'll prepare for wizardly combat.
I want to show you a trick Mother showed me when you weren't around.
And all that life, fast, step out, don't feel
Welcome to Spellburn, a podcast covering the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game and old-school adventuring. It's time to party like it's 1974.
It's been 13 years since DCC RPG was published. The heavens thundered, the earth shifted, the stars quaked in the heavens. Much phlogiston has been disturbed. Billions of radish farmers and chicken butchers have died. Much gold and glory has been won, and an untold number of patrons have been assuaged and betrayed. There's no second edition of DCC RPG coming, but that doesn't stop me from wondering from time to time, if there was, what would I do to change the game?
Blasphemy.
So I know, but
Okay.
I threw the question out to everyone who at least I could find on Facebook or Blue Sky, and we're going to go through all the answers that I could grab in 3 weeks and find out. I am Judge Julian, and with me I have our judges, Judge Jen.
Good evening, everyone.
And Judge James.
Hola from Michigan.
Well, hello.
That's our greeting. No, it's not.
And we are, I think I sense that we need to be in the tavern. So we're going to go
Right away.
Please.
Straight over there. Judge Jen, I sense that you need a libation stat. So here's an ice cold frosty mug and fill us in. I think it's been a really eventful last few weeks, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there was this little thing called Dungeon Con, and
Yay.
it was held at my home away from home. And been at the warehouse. It was really cool. It's never been so loud. And I think the absolute best part was that everybody there genuinely wanted to be there. And that just put it so far above every other con that I've been to in the past couple of years, because it's not a job. It's not, I'm not doing this just because I have to for the creds or whatever. No, everybody wanted to be there. And it was a really awesome thing to see. I ran Lankmar Sandbox, and it was the first game I've run in over a year. And that felt pretty good to get back in the seat. I'm feeling, how would you say it, fulfilled. And this coming week, actually, I leave in about 30 hours to go up to Madison, Wisconsin for the ACD Expo, a trade show held by one of our distributors.
All right.
I love ACD. For those about to rock, we salute, right?
No.
A little more snow.
Oh, okay. Not the same.
No, sadly. But a lot of stores like ACD, they carry our stuff. I get to run some demos for the retailers and distributors, and it'll be my first time doing that. I'm right next door to Brother B. Brendan's going to be running X-Crawl, so I get to do some short form ACC stuff. It'll be fun and nerve-wracking all at the same time, because that's how I roll.
That sounds pretty good, actually. Madison's a fun town to hang out. You've been there for many game, or at least, I don't know how many, but a bunch of Gamehole cons, at least 4 or 5 of them or something, right?
Yeah, this one's less hanging out and more drive there, set stuff up the next day, spend 4 hours and pull stuff back down, and then do demos.
Well,
kind of a whirlwind with a couple warehouse tours in the middle.
Are the demos like short form, or are they like an hour? Or okay.
Oh no.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
20 minutes max.
Right. Cool.
Hmm.
Apparently, there's libations involved with that. Brendan says it kind of goes uphill and then downhill real fast. So we'll see how the open bar treats us.
It's a sales event.
Mm.
You know, there's going to be guys with hollow legs pushing alcohol on you so that you buy their stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not horribly upset with that. I don't know. That would be good for me to be quasi-social for a change instead of just tooling home and passing out. So it'll be fun. Yeah. How about you, James?
Oh, speaking of men with hollow legs, Jeff Seifert can certainly hold his liquor much better than I can.
Ooh,
As I found out at Dutch, and I'm look at me, I'm an old man. I have no,
You're old.
I've got a huge beard and white hair. So Jeff on Friday night before Dungeon Con, because we got down there Thursday night for the creative retreat or whatever. We had some food. We hung out and played pinball. So I was hanging out with Doug Kovacs and Stefan Poeg and and Harley, and we were playing pinball like for several hours, just kind of having a nice old man time. A really lovely pinball game. Like most of the time they're too fast or they're like kind of like too like
like
old and like they just don't really work all that well. And then like there's this sweet spot in like the 70s and 80s where like they're kind of slower, but they've kind of the science behind it is being applied. So anyway, it's a really nice, like low key feeling pinball game. So anyway, I played pinball for a few hours afterwards during the creative retreat, and then went out with Jeff on Friday night, and that was a huge mistake. As Saturday, I was well hungover and could barely,
rookie.
yeah, out of practice for sure. I'll give you that. But he ran me through the gauntlet on Friday night. I was lucky to be alive. I didn't even feel good until like Monday. That's how bad it was. So,
Hmm.
but I had a nice time at Dungeon Con. Got to meet a bunch of people, which is awesome. Brian Spellman, who I'd never met in face to face, just online, and and the guys of what's the name of that company? They just came out with some stuff. Death Guaranteed Games. So Judge Crow and Paul Keller, they came all the way from freaking Los Angeles to go to Dungeon Con. Like I couldn't imagine a more kind of boring, kind of like tourist kind of experience. I'm in LA and I'll go visit Fort Wayne, Indiana. It just blows my mind sometimes. Same thing with Gen Con. Like it's like why
There
God?
was one person who actually flew out from South Korea.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right. He was a military guy.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
you went.
I was like, wow, that's some dedication. So it was
Mhm.
really cool to see a lot of people, to see Harley, to see Doug. I actually pinned them down for some work for Netcrawl. So that I did some business while I was there. And so I had a really nice time. And then between that was some play testing for Netcrawl. So played with the local group, the Gong Farmers 420. And then yes, it's on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
You
don't get
know,
it.
oh, me neither. No, Ann Arbor, the Washtenaw County, they when they had the ordinance to legalize marijuana in the state, Washtenaw County, which is Ann Arbor, voted 80+% to legalize it. So just gonna put that out there. Um, and then actually on the 23rd, that's coming up in a few days on Friday, I will be playing some Netcrawl on the TT RPG Pickup Con number 55 at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're in the UK, hey, it's a good time to play a game. But we'll be playing an adventure that I'm in the process of writing for Netcrawl. So that was me. What's up with you, Judge Julian?
I want to give a shout to Pickup Con because not
Yeah.
this was a thing that maybe started during COVID,
Yeah.
I believe. And but it's an online con that runs monthly. It's not on tabletop events, but this guy has his own very slick
Mhm.
site for it. I think
Yeah,
I've played it a few times. I was in a
that
Judge
sounds
Bob
great.
game.
Bob's done it a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Judge Bob has done a billion of them on there.
yeah. That was the year he hit like 99 Road Crew games. Yeah.
That's cool.
COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Actually, it would have been the year before COVID. He was doing Metamorphosis Alpha in there too.
To give you an
Oh,
idea,
yeah.
it's number 55 coming up.
Yeah, so, we can do
Yeah.
the math, I guess, but if we could do the math.
Yeah.
But um but anyway, it's indecisionist.com and I'll link it in the show notes. It's really a cool thing and everybody should take more advantage because I
Yeah.
don't think it makes much difference if 50 people run games or 6 people run games. Like,
Mhm.
there's a lot of interesting indie stuff on there, even though it's not necessarily a huge thing. There are all sorts of cool things going on there, so
Yeah.
people should go check it out.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry, got a little distracted there. Wow. I was at DaveCon in late April and ran some Temple Siege, ran Hive of the Overmind, which wow, that had been a long time, and also ran Portal Under the Stars. Speaking of a long time,
Mm.
I had not run that probably since the very, very early days of Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG. And yeah, that was very interesting to run. But we had a blast. That was kind of maybe I don't know if it was a highlight. All the games went great. We had a lot of players in 2 or maybe even one of them in 3 of the games. So we really had a good time. It was fun to hang out with some local gamers and they were not like regular con folks like from Gamehole or Gary Con and stuff. They tended to be. It was very fun because they tended to be local Minnesota folks who I can't game with in Minneapolis because they're like 2 hours away, but they could make it for a weekend. So it was very cool to meet guys from Mankato and outer exurbs and stuff like that. So hello, Dave Con friends, if you're out there, nice to meet you.
Should I come up there next year?
Possibly, yeah. It's cheap, especially because you could just stay in my well, anyway, whatever.
Your basement.
In my basement, in my doghouse, we'll figure it out. So working on a bunch of stuff and hopefully having some cool announcements next month, but that's all very mysterious and ominous for now. I'm headed to North Texas in a couple weeks to go to North Texas RPG Con, one of my very favorites, running some pulp styled DCC hacks. And I realized this last weekend that I actually have to write those adventures that I'm running there. Like, da da da. I actually have signed up to write some adventures. I better actually write them. So I will. No, I already kind of know them, but I actually have to stat them up and everything. So that's going to be fun. Looking a lot forward to that. It's a super fun con. And then also wanted to wave the flag for Neon Lords Con. And I think it's just called Neon Con, but of course, Brian Shutter and it's called the Neon Con. And it's Neon Lords. There's Joey Royale is running a Ninja City game.
Sold out.
Well, that one is sold out, but there's some Neon Lords games. I think I saw at least one DCC game. There's a bunch of different things going on there, and I'm sure people are going to be adding games to it. It's only Friday and Saturday, I think the 13th and 14th. It is $2 to register. It's all virtual.
Right.
So you got no friggin' excuse to not
Where
get
is
up.
it?
It's online.
It's online. It's all
Discord, the
yep.
Neon Lords Discord.
Yeah. So everybody should do that. Run a game, play a game, and enough said. So that's pretty much it for me. Let's talk about a little bit of the crowd burn. All right. Here's one that we talked about before, but I think when we originally talked about it a couple months ago, we had a little blurb, but it wasn't live yet, and we may not have had a lot of info. I think we did preview it last time as well, but Dawn of the Dog Wizard looks like it's running through June 3rd. 2-act adventure for level 4 characters for DCC RPG. inspired by the works of Barbara Hambly of the Windrose Chronicles and the unique Demons table in DCC RPG. A foul demon squats beneath the docks, plotting the destruction of Zolcash Harbor, building an army of inept dog wizards and forcing his evil magic on the townsfolk in bizarre rituals, poisoning the food supplies, kidnapping your neighbors, plaguing the town. So it launched on April 30th. It's live now. And my question to you, James and Jen and Alana and anybody in the chat is the Windrose Chronicles of Barbara Hambly related to Windrose, the weird dwarf rock band? Dwarf rock? I can barely say that right. Dwarf rock. They are dwarf rock.
No, I can't say it either. And I don't know the answer to your question, but now I'm perplexed. Like you just tried to make me say rural or something.
There is a band called Windrose. I think they're called Windrose, and they look and dress like dwarves and play something that could only be sort of described as dwarf hair metal. That's sort of a little bit dwarf speed metal. It's so campy. It's got to be really seen to be understood how silly and campy it is. It's kind of fun. And it gets to very quickly into earworm territory. So anyway, I'll have to research that. If anybody wants to email us, spellburnband@gmail.com. Tell us about Windrose the band or the Windrose Chronicles. And
I go link a video to the show notes because now you're killing me with curiosity.
I'm not going to do that. It's a Google away. It's a Google.
No, I think
everybody
you should be immortalized. The words came out of your mouth. We should make a link for it.
Maybe. If I remember this when I'm posting the show, I probably will. Diggy Diggy Hole is the song that once you've heard it, you can never. We are a dwarfs and we're digging a hole.
That's them?
Yes. Yes, exactly. So
I feel happily that I've missed all this.
Oh yes, and yet you sort of
over and over. Thank you.
You have the beard for the dwarf rock,
and I do like dwarves.
Seven Devils Press, the power behind that Kickstarter, has just commented that there is no relation in the books. The main wizard is named Windrose, but they're going to email us the details.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you very much, Seven Devils. I usually only have room for one devil, but in your case, I'll make an exception. All right. So, Castle White Rock is coming someday in like October, I believe. It's a huge box set from the days of Goodman Games yore. It's originally D20/3.5, huge mega dungeon. It's got 5 books full of adventures. Each of those books has like 5 or 6 levels in it. 700 pages of adventure content. The challenges therein will be a campaign for years. It's converting to both 5th edition and DCC, and it'll take 5th edition guys from 1st to 20th level and DCC folks from 1st to 10th level. So this is a monster. I've been looking at it lately and climbing through there, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff. It's big, it's dense, it's as big as it sounds, and so that'd be fun to see.
And they'll be even bigger with all the third-party like add-on levels.
Oh yeah,
sub levels and stuff.
Yeah, good point. There will be a bunch of extra content and new adventures for it, like Thracia and stuff like that too.
I will say that some of the areas could be standalone encounters for convention games too. I had a lot of fun with one of the playtests.
Nice.
Well, and they are doing, and their organized play this year is Castle White Rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Indeed.
if you're out there at Origins or Gen Con or wherever they're doing organized play, you should be able to find a White Rock adventure. Next, Vault of the Murder Worm. I believe this comes from Chris Williams. Yes,
some guy.
Chris Williams and Judge Bob Brinkman. In the river town of Sawtooth, every solstice brings dread as the Worm Father demands a youth be sent to his mountain vault as tribute. Yeah, so you know how it's going to go. Her father secretly begs the PCs to rescue her before she meets whatever fate awaits her in the darkness. The PCs must make an impossible choice: destroy the Wormfather and risk unleashing something that could destroy their village, or become complicit in a cycle of sacrifice that preserves a terrible status quo. You know, is there really a choice? Complicity is always, you know,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it is a funnel.
It is a funnel.
You could just walk away.
You could just walk away. As a player of a 0 level funnel I was running a couple years ago at Con of the North said, her character had a big piece of green glass stuck in her body, and she was trying to go figure out how to get rid of this, and she turned to me and said, well, what's my character's motivation exactly? And I said, well, you got a big piece of green glass stuck in your body. I don't know.
She wasn't
Funnels are funnels.
convinced.
She wasn't convinced. People could live with that, I guess.
Yeah.
So Vault of the Murder Worm, it is running to May 31st. Check it out. We will link it in the show notes. You can find it on wherever very good quality Kickstarters are kickstarted. From Brian Spellman, we have a new zine for Weird Heroes of Public Access called Make It a Fairhaven Night. This is running till May 28th. It's already funded. It's been mentioned on something called Raw. I don't know what that is. From the campaign, Make It a Fairhaven Night is inspired by classic public access television, 80s and 90s video store culture, and the eerie magic of small town mysteries. If you love the feel of Clerks, Night of the Living Dead, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, and so on, this one is for you, with a new location, 2 adventures, tons of random tables, and a new host type. So yeah, that does sound pretty fun. And obviously, Weird Heroes of Public Access is our, like Neon Lords, kind of one of our what our sibling games, our sibling systems, sibling cultures. I don't know what that.
We love them. Full stop.
We're next door neighbor.
A subcult.
Subcult.
Not a cult. Okay. And then James, you want to take this one? You brought this to us today.
I did. It's launching in less than 5 days. It is The Great Pyramid of Atum Isfet from Death Guaranteed Games. It's by Paul Keller. I mentioned them in the tavern. I did get to talk to both of them, and they were swell people. I have backed their other game, which was The Cult That Never Was, and so I'm looking forward to backing this one too. It's a funnel set in with a great huge pyramid. The demonic lord of entropy, patron of undeath, is Atum Isfet. This pyramid was built in their honor, and the king of the Asniri people, wanted to do something terrible and profane, and he did. And so you can get the funnel in back it in 5 days, and then wait for it, and then find out what's going to happen inside. But highly recommend these guys. They're good guys. Judge Crow. Judge Paul, good guys.
Well, Judge Paul is the Paul Keller that was on our episode about the editors and playtesters. I think it was 121. I think it's the same guy.
Really?
Well,
that was
I don't.
Before my time, I think.
We had a Paul Keller. I don't know.
Maybe.
I think so.
Probably.
Was he from LA?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, then that must be him.
We were talking about West Coast time differences and stuff. So hello, Judge Paul. Hello to you, former guest. Hopefully that's the same guy. Otherwise, people will think we'll stupid.
Just cut this out of the episode.
They will. Yeah, I will just be removing.
Craigslist.
We'll be editing this out.
We met before.
All right. On that note, send us your crowd burn things. Look at this free advertising we're doing for all our friends, third-party publishers, even our sibling subcult systems. Send that to us at spellburnband@gmail.com. You can even hit me on the socials, or James or Jen, and get it out there for us, and we'll try to grab that up, and we'll try to let people know what's going on out there. So having said all that, let's go over to the mailbag. All right. Looks like our first one here is from Judge Brian. James, do you want to take this very first one?
Oh, okay. Let's see. I hope the judges, Jay, are doing well. Are we?
Yes.
Okay, great. And preparing for a big summer of cons. Here are some questions for the big show. We had a few recent natural ones for our wizards and clerics at absolutely fantastic moments in gameplay during Lankmar's violence in Votishal. I wanted to ask and clarify rules for wizards and clerics when hitting natural ones. If a wizard rolls a natural one, regardless of how much may be spent for the spell burn, she will fail and suffer consequences, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Absolutely correct, Brian. Ding, ding, ding. You're going to get a dinner. If cleric has a disapproval range of 1 to 2 as a result of previously failing some spells, anytime that cleric rolls a natural 1 or 2, the cleric will fail and suffer disapproval, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I say it depends.
It
Yes,
depends.
you definitely get that extra point of disapproval and suffer the disapproval. I would say it depends on what you were trying to cast and where you are to see if there's maybe some sort of leaning in your favor. Or make a luck check.
What are you talking? I have never heard. What is this? Some sort of house rule that you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, apparently. I mean, it's never been fully clear in the book, and that's one thing that always bugged me because the cleric was my favorite when I started,
Yeah.
and nobody could give me a solid answer. So we just started treating it kind of like bless, where you get a positive or negative modifier depending on where you are when you're casting it.
Hmm.
You can go with it that way.
So,
So the book
yeah.
doesn't really say a whole lot on it unless they've made some spectacular clarifications for the 12th printing.
Hmm.
But yes, definitely still found suffer disapproval because that's what the roll is for.
I thought if you're in the disapproval range, you rolled that many die 4 on the disapproval table and then modified by your luck modifier.
So
And
I will say it is in theory possible to hit a 12 or higher on the spell check and like even roll a natural 12
Yeah.
if your disapproval is way up there.
Yeah.
And in theory you might suffer disapproval but not necessarily fail casting the spell. I don't know if
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Because in
Okay.
that 1 or 2, clearly you're not gonna.
yeah.
All
Well,
right.
well
I
even
apologize. I was fuzzy on that.
Well, even then, Jen, it's possible. I mean, if you're 5th level, you roll a 2 and the halfling dumps a bunch of luck on you or whatever, or you spend your own luck, you could even then, in theory, hit a 12. Anyway, so I don't know about the auto fail, but I think we all agree a 1 or
Same.
2 is always just, if you're in the disapproval thing, you hit a natural number in that
Yeah.
range.
Sorry, I overconflated it.
Well, no problem. I think we're all on the same page. So the answer is correct. Yes. Proceed, James.
Proceed. Matter number 2. Can you explain how to use Spellburn optional rule of burning 20 points of ability scores to treat the next roll as a natural 20? Would the wizard declare this before casting and then just take 20 plus any modifiers as a spell check result with no roll?
I believe that is it. And then when you say plus modifiers, which I agree with, you also have to make sure you double the level, the caster level, which is also part of a nat 20, I believe.
Right.
But yes, other than that, I mean, I agree with everything he said, and I believe that is correct.
Let's hear what Jen has to say.
So you're telling me you can do that without rolling?
Yes.
Yep. That if you burn 20, you've burned 20 points of ability scores.
Oh, yep. You're right. I have a version to that particular rule. That's all.
Yeah, it's not done a lot, but
No.
it does
I
exist.
still want you to roll because there's still a chance that you might hit a nat 1. And
Well, it's a fumble avoidance tactic, right?
Right.
I'm gonna go so big that I avoid the misfire.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
those misfires happen more than you think.
It's a 5% chance all the time, every roll.
All the time. But even on giant spell. So anyway,
Mhm.
yes, that is the way it works. So okay.
Matter number 3. This is a long email. Do you allow wizards and clerics to use luck to add to spell check rolls or halflings to spend luck for them? He says we do. My assumption is that luck can be used, especially if a wizard fails and really does not want to lose the spell. However, luck cannot change a fumble, a natural 1.
Yes, yes, and yes, and yes.
Yes.
For
And I
sure.
think-
For sure.
And I think clerics automatically use their luck modifier to all their spells, no matter what.
Nope. Just
Is it-
turn unholy.
Is it just
Just-
turn unholy?
Yeah, it is
Okay.
just turn, I believe.
I've had to
Um,
beef up for the whole short demo thing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Yeah.
I just don't care.
Yeah, that's fair too. As a general rule, spellburn first, spend luck after.
Yes.
Yeah, for
True.
sure. But the important, so everything in number 3 was correct. However, important to emphasize separately a little bit, luck cannot change a fumble natural 1. Yes, also.
That's true as
Correct.
well. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Matter number 4. Final matter.
Can't you spend a point of luck to avoid the? Nope, wizard. Sorry,
Well,
warrior.
You could avoid
warriors.
corruption.
Warriors,
Corruption.
yeah, warriors can avoid. Warriors have a thing to avoid a combat fumble, and wizards can avoid a corruption. Yeah.
No, this email is long.
It is.
Yes.
Judge Brian, thank you.
If only
Thank
these,
you.
if only these raw guys I've heard about did their job right, they wouldn't have to ask us all
Right.
these rules questions, right? But here
I
we
thought there
are.
was a whole show for this.
I
All
don't
right.
blame. I don't blame anybody for not trusting what they hear over there. So it's good. Come
Yeah.
to us first,
It's
honestly,
fair.
and then
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Matter number 4. Final matter. Are elves permitted to use Spellburn in your games? We allow it, and the consequences for the party have been incredibly fun, sometimes resulting in a much weaker elf who would have been very useful in some big fights.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. There.
Okay.
I don't think nobody should ever read wizard in the text and think that doesn't apply to elves, because elves are essentially the same thing as wizards.
Correct. Yeah, they're yeah, almost. And when it comes to spellcasting stuff, they're basically identical, except for maybe that corruption burning thing, and even then, yeah.
Yeah. The only difference between them is elves auto get patron bond.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Very true.
All right. Thank you, Judge Brian. That was
Thank
a
you,
lot of
Judge Brian.
questions. I hope we acquitted ourselves well.
Yeah, well, for newer listeners, and some people start at the end. Some people are starting episode 1, but some people are starting with the last one. That might be clearing
That's fair.
stuff up. That
There you go.
can be very good. All right. Let's go to. We have something from Judge Ryan West here. John, do you want to take this one?
Or greetings, judges. I hope you're well and rested. I hear there's another crowdfunder in the works for Castle White Rock. Looking forward to that one. Is there any chance or possible plans to reprint the DCC annual #1 with an alternate cover, or maybe an MCC annual #1 in the works? My bookshelves have a perfect place for them both. Don't mind if I field that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
Hey, me too about the bookshelves, and you'll find out as soon as we do. Spellbird probably isn't the place to ask about plans for upcoming projects from Goodman Games, because as you've seen with some of the potential dates for, hey, we're going to launch this year, or we're going to end up with this in our hands. So it was supposed to be a year ago. Oh, wait, all of a sudden it's here. Yeah. Spellburn has no official affiliation with the planning process behind Goodman.
That's true. I would say, like, watch the in the meantime, at least you can watch for the Gen Con program, books, which often have additional content for DCC and MCC.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. Very good point for that stuff. And the Dungeon Con program probably had some cool stuff as well.
It did have an adventure by Martin and Benicki, and then what else is in there?
Yes, and the adventure uses the map for the warehouse, which I absolutely adore.
Oh, fun.
There was stuff in there, I think.
Maybe some like photos and that kind of stuff. Maybe I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't.
Yeah.
I have it around here somewhere. It's not handy.
The DCC Annual #1 does have an alternate printing coming out. I think street date is technically a week or two from now if it hasn't already hit the store. The store, so
Well, there you go.
could just be that Judge Ryan was prescient.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So it sounds like there is going to be a new printing of that. Well, there you go, Judge Ryan. At least one of your spaces might have something there. MCC Annual, keep monitoring this channel, and if we probably won't know till it's official, but once it's official, we'll definitely know. So it doesn't hurt to ask.
Definitely.
I know Mike Curtis wants an MCC Annual or some kind of additional book. It's a matter of whether it makes sense or not.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it would be a fun thing. I certainly would love to have one. So enough said. All right, are we ready to assess some changes to our beloved game, to go through and find out if you really just had the one thing? What is the one thing, or in some cases, the one thing and then the next one thing and then the third one thing, and anyway. All right, we're gonna go over to Mighty Deeds. We're gonna pick these up and more to come. All right, so a couple of these came in emails. Well, actually, several of them in emails. And then a bunch of them were on Facebook and Blue Sky and stuff like that. So I will start the first one. Maybe I'll kind of read these. They get a lot shorter as we go on, so hopefully it's not too crazy. I'll read the next email, and then James, maybe you read the second one after that.
And point of order, are we gonna like bring back the old school Spellburn?
Yes. So guys, as you'll recall, of course, from the ye olden days with Judge Jim, Judge Job, Judge Jeffrey, we will there's a 4-point rating system: critical hit, miss, or fumble on their suggestions, because they would go through those rules and they would say, warriors, are they a critical hit, a fumble, or a miss? And Mighty Deeds, the funnel, and all those things. So I think we should do, I think as an homage to our 4 judges, I think we should take that up and do that. So that's my plan.
Seconded.
4-point system. Jen, does it make sense?
Sure.
All right. Rock and roll. I'll read this guy. It is from Judge Ken. We've omitted some of this because a little bit of it is kind of introductory, which is very nice to have, but
time.
Yeah.
It's for time. That's all we gotta say.
You got it. So, playing the game with rules as written, the PCs tended to die off between second and third level, leaving the gamers somewhat frustrated. If they didn't have a halfling in the group, they were truly screwed. I realized that letting the characters regenerate all their luck between games really made them way more invulnerable than they should be. Finding the sweet spot is what I needed. So before I got the Lankmar supplement, I'd let the gamers roll 2d6 and let them keep that for their current luck for the game. It didn't overpower them, and they were still dependent on the halfling to save their bacon. That made the games go smoother and was more fun for everybody. It was just a minor tweak, but it worked well. But as of this writing, we've never had a character get over 4th level yet. That doesn't mean we haven't had an absolute blast. I love that the writers basically said the gamers could mangle the game to suit their playing style. The character classes are quite reskinnable, and the group has had a blast playing in Starcrawl Classics as well. So yeah, he goes on a little bit, but Judge Ken, interesting idea. So basically, regen luck for each session. I don't know if he means just add that to their current luck points, or basically just you get 2d6 for this session. We don't look at your ability.
It sounds like he's adding that to the existing, because part of the intro was that a lot of characters or players burn themselves down to survive. He's talking about
he says specifically
2d6 and that's their score.
Well, he says, and let them keep that for their current luck for that game.
So each game session, or like might be a module or something, an adventure, 2d6.
I think he's referring to the carousing, regaining luck through carousing in Lankmar.
Okay.
Because that mechanic also helps you regain some of your luck, and then your hit points, and then any stats that were lost, depending on how spectacularly you roll. So that helps keep them alive, or at least maybe survive a teeny bit past baseline, if you will. So yeah, letting them regenerate a little bit of luck versus all of it. Although 2d6, that's a little bit generous.
Yeah, I would say if it's adding to an existing one, for me that's a miss. I like the idea. I don't totally hate the idea, but it seems like luck should be shepherded and treasured between sessions also, and then of course you have to roll under if you flip the body, and so you sort of miss out that really critical resource management factor, which suddenly becomes, instead of a running campaign thing you're trying to shepherd, becomes a very random swingy thing, which is sort of DCC, but gets it out of that little appendix and fate type thing. So I don't know. For me, that is, I can see something there. Maybe it's a house rule I could like, but not quite there. So for me, it's a miss.
Yeah, it's a miss for me too, I think. In that it feels like there's some other parts of the game being kind of overlooked, right? That at the end of an adventure, you should get luck back, a certain amount. I don't know what the rules say, but like 2 or 3 points or something to that effect seems, sufficient. Also, it's your table. You can give away luck at the drop of a hat for anything. It's not because it's at the end of the adventure, or it's because, so I feel like there's lots of other ways to fix this problem than to develop kind of a separate house rule mechanic.
Jen, what do you say?
I think you're right about needing the repercussions of having lower luck.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to rolling the body. I would stick with the Lankmar mechanic of being able to potentially regain luck through carousing, depending on how high you want to risk things. I think a straight 2d6 would be too kind. So I would say it's a miss.
All right, very good. I would say, I would say that very early on in my DCC life, Judge Doug Kovacs often said, "People don't give enough luck away. You're supposed to give luck all the time to people." Yeah. And that is so. And Judge Ken, that might help. If you were, and Linkmar's good at that because of course you have the fleeting luck on crits and so on. So if people brought that into their games more, that might alleviate some of the luck drain that happens. Luck for doing cool stuff, luck for being brave, luck for acting in character, luck for making a good joke, and for sure luck for completing an adventure successfully, and all that good stuff. All right. Are we ready to go on to the next one? Judge Kojo had a suggestion for us. No surprise there. Jen, do you want to take Kojo's?
Sure. Kojo says that one of the things he feels the core book has been lacking, having been corrected by things like Manual, includes adding cleric canticles and simplifying spell duel mechanics, as in Enter the Dagon adventure module. So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the. Sorry, Kojo, I've got to edit you for time.
Oh no, he's saying. Sorry, he was saying.
Yeah. Oh, but instead of those things which he thought was interesting, the one thing that he would like to see fleshed out more is a default campaign setting. So
Correct.
if we're
Yeah.
talking about things that we need if we're updating DCC, okay, I can get behind that. For the 3.5 line, it was Aerith, and there was a gazetteer for that. There are a lot of Aerith references in various adventure modules, especially once Harley is written. True fact. But yeah, Kojo's right. There's something about a large hex map akin to, Darlene's work of art with Greyhawk, and having a gazetteer box set with a full-size map of the world, Aerith, or otherwise, with key locations from the classic DCC adventures marked on it, but with enough open space for judges to expand as their personal campaigns grow. Yeah, I think that would be a cool thing for DCC to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a rule change or just like a
wish list.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know that we said it was only a rules change.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a legit request. For me, I'm kind of neutral on it. I think it would be fun, and I'd get it, and I'd love to look at it. Would I do anything with it? I wouldn't hate it, so I'd probably give it a miss. Because I wouldn't ever because I'd be too lazy to use it. But I would love to look at it, and then I'd probably borrow Gary's and never give it back, that kind of thing. I don't know. Judge James, what do you say?
I'm on the fence, much like yourself. The Gazetter is big. Like I've only seen it electronic, but like there's a bunch of map files, a lot of them, and it seems really huge. And so is the only thing missing that it doesn't have hexes on it because it's just kind of like plain topographic kind of map. Um, uh, I don't know. In some ways, I think it exists.
But it's also 3.5, not DCC.
Yeah, but how? Like even when I read it, I was like, oh, there's the gods that are in DCC, are in the Gazetter, and additional ones that weren't even in DCC. So I feel like it's kind of a good add-on to DCC as is. There's not, I mean, when you talk about a world building supplement, like how much of it's going to be stat blocks? Like not probably not as much as you think. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of like can be easily system agnostic, just by throwing that stuff away if there is things that are particular to 3.5, and it would be perfectly. But maybe as a reprint thing, I'll give it a hit. Like as like, oh, let's do it like DCC. Sure, a hit.
I mean, the thing that tempts me to make it a hit would be thinking about updated for DCC with Stefan Pogue and
Yeah.
Doug Art and
Yeah.
Mullen and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, Jen, what do you say?
Totally flesh it out as a default campaign setting. More than just a gazetteer. Give me more source books. Give me, if we're going down that road, I would actually like to see more that the players can get and use. Dare we say splat book. But yeah, I'll give it a hit.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Kojo. We appreciate it as always. Next, we're going up to Charles Royston.
Judge Crow.
Yeah, Judge Crow.
That's
here.
3 times for them. It's like Candyman now. He's got to appear.
No kidding. James, you want to take this one?
Sure. Charles, Judge Crow, writes, if there's anything I'd change about the game system I love, it would be that spell duels were more streamlined for ease of play. Don't get me wrong, I love it as written, but playing that way gets too complicated and turns a battle involving everyone into an extra credit assignment for the wizard.
Yes.
Valid. Valid.
And why don't you take the next one too? This came from my new pal James Michael Spawn. That I've
Are we
been.
hitting the? Are we doing the hit, miss, or crit thing on
Well,
this,
well,
or what?
these
Oh,
guys are
they're
kind of
together. Okay.
yeah. Well, they're kind of the same thing. So I put
Okay.
we clubbed them together.
Got it. So James Michael Spawn, famous James Michael Spawn, spell duels, wretched spell duels. The raw spell duels is slow, clunky. I've never played with any group that ever used them. That was James Michael Spawn on Facebook. Actually, I'm gonna throw mine in here too, because this is one of the ones that I have thought a little bit about. It's actually mandatory spell duels. It's like actually making you do it. Like if the
Yes.
wizard is ever a target of a spell, he has to enter a spell duel no matter what.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, James. I love that. Well.
Anyway, back to what's boring about it.
Well, I mean, it is something that, as Kojo alluded to,
Right.
Dagon, and even something else that
The big annual one of the Gen Con
yeah, program guides. Yeah.
Riders of Phlogiston or whatever it was.
2 different attempts to streamline this, and I think both of them are successful. They're pretty much the same. I think Riders of the Phlogiston does a little bit more of it, streamlines it just a little bit more even than Enter a Dagon. Yeah, I love me some spell duels. So what exactly are we voting on at this point?
The idea that we either, well, Charles has said that spell duels get streamlined, and James says he doesn't like them. But I think James probably does like him. He just wants us to improve them as well. I'm deciding to speak for James on this point, which may or may not be true. So I think what we're voting on is redoing spell duels: hit, miss, crit, fumble.
Hit. There's always room for improvement.
I'll go with that. I'll go with a hit on that. Yeah.
All right.
Look at what's out there would be my advice, and give her another go, gentlemen.
I'd say it's a crit, because I mean, I know this is hard to give it a crit when it's very open-ended and stuff, like there's nothing to actually, vote on per se, except the nebulous idea of improving. However,
vote for improvement.
However, think of how cool and how innovative the magic system in DCC is. And obviously spell duels are almost there. Like there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. They could be just a little smoother, and they could really be awesome, right? If with there's some way to do this that would be amazing and super fun. So it's out there, and we can find it. So I'm going to call that a crit, because that's one of my favorite ones that has been recommended. That brings us to our old friend Claytonian.
Wow.
He was the mod of the G+ group back in the day.
What was that adventure he put out a million years ago?
Oh gosh.
The Wizardarium of Calabraxis.
Yeah. Beautiful, great adventure. He's an artist as well as a writer. And anyway, check out Claytonian's stuff. I'll link the Wizardarium in our show notes. So Claytonian says there should be no standard monsters in the book, just what he's calling muscles humanoids, mini feral humanoids, and furry humanoids. In other words, make them kind of generic, or give everybody maybe sort of the demon and dragon treatment of like randomly gen your humanoids, randomly gen your furry types, randomly gen your dryad, sylph, nereid types, or whatever. Make it more generic, random, and that kind of stuff.
More tables.
Interesting idea. What do you guys think, Judge Jen?
If we're talking completely random, I'm okay with it, but that's clearly not what Claytonian's saying here. He gave me 3 options. I have to call that a fumble.
Well,
I'm sorry. I need more choice in my life.
And one's a furry humanoid. I mean, that could set people off.
I don't want humanoids. I want things that are different and that obviously stand out from the norm. That's what makes DCC what it is.
Yeah, you're being very literal, and the way it's written, you are correct. That's exactly what he said. There should be no standards and monsters in the book. Just muscles humanoids, mini feral humans, and furry humanoids. Like get rid of dragons and demons too. I,
He
I
just told me
in,
that there are standard monsters. These three categories of standard monsters. But
Boy, do I
there's
have some news for him. There's 2 monster books out now,
I
or
I'd
about
s-
to be.
I'd say that I'd say if that's really what he meant, that I would agree that's a fumble. I'm not for that. I don't I feel that a more if he means that we should that those are examples of like instead of having gnolls and goblins and stuff, we would have muscle. You know, that's more what I think he's saying. So I'd call that a hit. If he really means just 3 types of humanoids is all the monsters in the book, I'm gonna call that a fumble as well. Judge James, what do you say?
A hit if it's like more tables, more rando, more fun, more crazy stuff to kind of mash up. Um, a miss if it's really just those 3 things. That's weird.
Okay, yeah, you never know. People have interesting ideas.
Hey,
And,
no, I'm in the same category. If it's for random, it'll be a hit. If it's just for humanoids, mm-mm.
Right.
fair enough. Very good.
You have to leave a fumble on there. It's
He
like,
has to draw them. That's what
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and do all the table work. He's in for a penny, in for a pound.
So here's one from our old friend Svebor and also a past Spellburn guest. The more
Yeah.
episodes we have, the almost everybody will get their 15 minutes of Spellburn in the future.
Amen.
So that's great. Svebor says, and this he feels like this might be a ringer because I've heard this one before. Svebor says, throw out clerics. All magic is the same, just that some wizards get their spell knowledge from gods and form cults. Turning handled more or less as in.
Transylvanian Adventures.
Oh, right. Yes, you're right. And agents of God get an agent die just like in Lankmar, like patrons, basically, right? That they can use to perform miracles. So really wizarding it up more. Well, I mean, Lankmar's kind of already done this, and I think it's worked out pretty good for the most part.
I don't want all of DCC to be like that. Do you?
It breaks the OSR clone of D&D. Not that DCC is a clone of the old stuff, because it's not, but it does really kind of it gets away from like this is a version of the 1974 game, right? Having said that, I really don't care if people throw clerics out of my games. When I play them, I can never cast a freaking spell to save my life anyway. So what's the difference? I call it a hit because I really hate to agree with Judge Goad, but I gotta say that he's for a guy who's been wrong about how to pronounce Gesh for so many years. I will say that there's not a real cleric analog in the Appendix N fiction, to my mind, and so I'd be totally fine with this. I like to have the game hew more to the sword and sorcery. Do you see what I did there? Hew more to the sword and sorcery, and then so yeah, I'm gonna
Feel
call
more to the thews. Yes.
yes,
The
hew
mighty
to the hues.
thews.
Judge James, what do you say?
I really like clerics. I really like the 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 difference they bring to the table as far as between magic and I guess religion. They have their own place at the table, and I think they have an important one. So, like I can get behind what he's saying in a sense. Like you could do all those things with just like a magic user class or a channeler kind of class or something. But there's a lot of special things that the cleric as written brings to the table that would be difficult to kind of put in a general framework. And whereas with the warrior, you can do those things, right? You can kind of if you really try hard and think about mighty deeds, and you can really kind of have a monk class, right? That's all their stuff is unarmed combat, and you can develop a bunch of stuff around that. Heck, you don't even have to develop it. Marzio's got you covered, 3 ways to Sunday on all the mighty deeds you'd ever need to develop all these kinds of flavors of warriors. But I don't think that that's really something that the spellcaster class as it is currently can do. So I'm gonna call it a miss.
All right, fair enough. And
Yeah.
Jen, you're the tiebreaker. No
No.
pressure.
Miss.
Miss?
But
Miss.
I was just gonna say Ibid. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Ibid.
Now this next one may have snuck onto my list in error. Although it isn't maybe a good question for us, or maybe you think he's suggesting something here. But he's Judge Dennis Fosberg from Facebook. He says, well, I get confused about roll under or DC to beat. I understand luck should always be roll under, but other attribute checks, come on, please clarify, or it's another thing the judge has to be clear about with their group. So let's consider that what he's really suggesting here is that we, instead of DCs to beat on a D20 for other ability checks, he's saying make it roll under is kind of what I'm getting here. I mean, he's saying clarify, but it's reasonably clear, right? Everything except luck is roll a D20 you want high. You're trying to beat a DC. Luck as a make or at your luck points, right?
I read it differently than that. To me, see, text is an interesting medium, right? To me, it reads
Yeah.
as he's not liking the idea of having to roll under for stat checks. Or
that he should, or that luck should.
yeah, I read it as, I understand luck should always be a roll under, but other attribute checks, come on. I read that completely different.
Well, in rules as written, there's no roll under except maybe luck, and even that's kind of blurry of like optional how you do it, I believe, in the book.
No, it's
Luck is
like
under.
I think it is a little blurry. It's like usually it's done like this. Is the rules is kind of how it's written in the rule book. It's usually it's a roll under, and
But
then
they're
that
all
kind of leaves it up
guidelines.
to like, well, what does that mean?
They're all guidelines.
That's true.
Okay, so maybe we rate his recommendation for making the
Everything
rules
under.
better.
I'd say I like it just fine as it is. I'm gonna, if you say make luck a roll high, I make it a miss. If you say make everything roll under, I make it a miss. So I'm calling it a miss.
Fair.
What do you, Jen? Where are you at?
Totally agree that the judge has to be clear about with their group.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a hit because I read it in a different tone of voice than you did.
Well, fair enough. And James, what do you say?
I guess I'm gonna go with a miss. I'm not sure this necessarily needs to be fixed.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Judge Joel Fitzpatrick gave us a social media ping, and then he emailed us and he said DCC is a fantastic game, but the one thing I would change would be to include player maps in the adventures, or at least include downloadable PDFs on the Goodman Games website. In the past, he's had players do the old school way of mapping dungeons with pencil and graph paper. Currently, he maps them out on Chessex Battle Map, which works fine, of course, but having players map would be a nice change. I personally, I say, for me, it's kind of a miss if we did it for every product, but I would say for some products, it's a great idea and it really helps people engage with the material when you give them any kind of map or handout. And like half done maps that may or may not be right are awesome and really add stuff to the game. And I can think of like some old JK's adventures, like Tomb of or the Lost Treasure, Book of Treasure Maps, is it? That have, they all kind of start that way, like they're awesome. So generally I'd say I'm kind of a miss if we are doing it for every possible thing ever. But in terms of doing it as a, here and there occasionally and doing it more and more adventures, I like the idea. Judge Jen, what do you say?
Absolute crit coming from a judge's standpoint. Crit.
Sounds good. Judge James, what do you think?
I'll go with crit. I'm a big fan of player-facing stuff. I've done it a number of times in my own work. I think it's an important component of a product to help out the judges. Exactly to your point, Jen. I mean, you can certainly white out everything and then hand it to them, but that's just extra work. It's enough to run an adventure, let alone do a bunch of fiddling with images and stuff.
All right, very good.
If you're gonna try to do it live at a table.
Right, in pen and paper, like live, no way. It's just like you're screwed.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Judge Ed Stanek. That last one is a very high ranked one because even though I gave it a miss, you guys both gave it crits. So that might, man, I'm not doing points for these, but that's the points awarded on that is pretty high, I gotta say.
That's true.
Okay. Judge Ed Stanek, another Spellburn former guest, says the one thing I would change would be the alignment system. I know law neutral chaos is very old school. The law versus chaos is significantly less descriptive of one's worldview than good versus evil. In his game, he does a 5-point alignment system: good, evil, law, chaos, neutral. What do you guys think? James.
I'm going to call this a fumble.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm going to go. There is something magical about Michael Moorcock and the eternal balance and struggle of the universe, and I'm not willing to mess with that.
Well, that's fair.
The good and evil thing, I think even it's kind of addressed in that alignment section to some degree, so I don't feel like it's necessary.
I'm gonna say that I'm open to changing it and thinking about it, but I gave it a miss because I don't think the 5-point thing is where I would go. And I always think I'm open to something different, but when I hear the different ones, I don't really like them any better. So I'm giving that a miss. Judge Jen, what do you say?
Coming from somebody whose gaming blog was lawful, not necessarily good, I have to say I'm going to embrace the Gray of Lankmar, give it a miss just because it's so hard to put a fine point on it. No, it screws with things like, what do you consider unholy or the opposite of your alignment?
Right.
It's pretty apparent at the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very fair. All right. Judge James Walls.
Ooh.
I think that's him, Living for Crits, right?
Yeah, that's it. That is him.
Yeah.
He says, I've literally got hundreds of DCC games under my belt. It's almost a cult. And he loves the game, but he wished there was an update that split up the ancestry and class so that you could play the halfling thief or the halfling wizard or the dwarf cleric and so on. Now, there are some things out there like that, of course, as we all know. There are some hacks and there's a I think there's an old crawl magazine or there's some stuff where they've done that anyway. So, but they're not official Goodman Games products. So he's talking about really for realsies doing it in Goodman Games, right? And I give it a hit because I don't think it would have to be super complicated. Just because AD&D was overcomplicated with it doesn't mean the DCC version would be. And Shadow Dark does a reasonably nice job with it, for instance. And I think you'd get some 5e people and Shadow Dark peoples. And yeah, so I give it a hit. Judge Jen, what do you say?
No, I'll give it a hit. I have nothing against additional character types.
All right. Judge James, what do you say?
Wow. I think I'm just going to go with a miss. I don't feel like it's the DNA of the game.
Fair.
I
That's
would
fair.
I would maybe change one word in that section that says they must take their class. It says like demi-humans must take their demi-human class. I would just change it to may, and that would be the end.
Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
fair
Hmm.
enough.
But essentially what I'm saying here is like you can be an elf from your background, but you could be a thief, but you're no longer an elf. You're not going to have spells. You're not going to have all the stuff that elves have. You're a thief.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
No
No, I like
mashup.
that. More options, like weird hybrid options, would be good. Um, Michael Spreadman, our old friend and my new friend from GaryCon, says when a character dies, they should turn into a ghoul. This is sort of our antics that we had at our last GaryCon game, which was fun. And I think we talked about him on the last episode, where funnel guys died and came back as ghouls and died again and came back as ghouls again and so forth.
Mhm.
Now it's maybe a little tongue in cheek
Yeah.
as a suggestion. However, there are many DugCon games in the old days where if your crappy 0 level guy died, you came back as a ghost and you were like a floating skull bugging other
Mhm.
characters and could go around and make mischief. And
Oh yeah.
and that was kind of fun. So I think so. I'm calling it a miss, but I think it does make sense in given adventures to have more ways for dead character players to have fun. That it's
Especially a
perfectly
funnel.
especially
Especially
a funnel.
a funnel character. I have Mark Plord tell you about the double dead stamp character that Bob ended up giving him. Uh, it's always a good time.
Exactly. Yep, Jen, what do you say?
I'm gonna give it a crit because they can also affect other things in the game, even as a disembodied spirit. And Catastrophe Island has rules for that too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, the old Catastrophe
Mhm.
Island. Very good. James, what do you say?
Oh, I won't turn contrarian on this one. I'll say sure. Yes, it's a hit. Why not? More madness at the table.
All right, very good. We're pro madness. I think it's understood.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, how many are there, Julian?
There are there are a few more.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it
that's what
seems that we've really hit on the public's the things they
Yeah.
want to talk about.
well, that's good. No, we're good. We're good. It's fine. We're going fast. All right, here we go. Brian Smart said, because I love the game so much, it's it's a tough question, but maybe to make XP tables that will allow for gold for XP style OSR games. And I called it a hit. I don't feel too passionate, but I think it would be a fun option to make the game more AD&D or basic or whatever like that.
Mm.
Just as a
Um,
kind of optional table.
okay, so for the people who aren't that familiar with really old school, uh, if I understand correctly, if you come out of a level with, say, 500 gold, you're also going to get some sort of XP for that treasure as well.
You
Is that
literally
what
get 500 XP for that 500 gold. And
Yeah.
if you got a magic item like a potion of blah blah,
Mm.
and it was worth 200 gold pieces, you got the did they have an
200.
XP value or was it just the
No,
gold
I think
piece
it was the
value?
gold piece value.
Yeah,
that
anyway.
And you
is
didn't get XP for killing monsters, as I recall.
Oh no, you did for sure. There were
that
XP values for killing stuff.
that's kind of a bookkeeping nightmare. I remember those days. I remember fighting over who was going to get what just because they needed the XP.
Oh, that was a thing, yes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna give it a miss.
Okay. And Judge James, what do you say?
I feel like almost everyone ignores XP anyway, so this is like a miss. It's just like it doesn't matter.
That's fair.
XP is strictly a
Gold,
suggestion.
gold doesn't matter that much either in DCC.
That's true.
True. All right, here we go. Judge Jonathan Perkle says, I would throw out the shackles of Tolkien D&D and have a human PC option with the archetypes that match demi-human playing styles, i.e. instead of an elf, have a woodsman, ranger, druid type guy. Instead of a dwarf, have a hillman, mountain man, barbarian type combo. instead of halfling, sidekick, buddy, good luck charm, blah blah blah. I like this because I gave it a crit because I would like to take the demi-humans out, or at least like Linkmar does. You could just play Linkmar rules if you want to do that, really. I know that Death Slaves of Eternity, Marzio's, I think, first adventure, he had hacks just like this, where the dwarf was a soldier, the halfling was a pirate, and the elf was something else. I forget, but he had a very similar, basically the same idea, but that's not official. Judge Jen, what do you think?
I'm with you. It's easy to do anyway. I don't know that we need to codify it, but sure, I'll give it a mild hit.
Okay. James, what do you say?
Miss. This is
Miss.
a fantasy game. I'm sorry. You don't want to play fantasy games. Find some other game.
You got elves in your elf game. Get over it.
That's how it works.
Well, that's fair. Okay, he also gave us a suggestion that was have a unified system, aka Godian magic, where the so-called gods are just patrons. Now, obviously, that's similar to what we were discussing above from Svebor, but it's a little different, right? Where they'd actually just be treated as patrons. So, it's kind of a cool idea. Think about doing patrons for every friggin' god you ever do in a game.
Oh,
that would be a lot.
Lord, I've written enough.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we get a lot of money for that.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a cool, as a consumer, I actually kind of like this idea.
I guess if we're gonna really just like strip it, this is not like a cosmetic change. This is like stripping it down to the studs and rebuilding it. The whole the whole magic system.
Yeah.
Really. Because getting back to my point earlier, is like there's no way to analog what the cleric's doing in the game without like kind of turning it into, I guess, spells at that point. Like you have to have some sort of healing spell, and
they're just wizards with patrons at that point.
Yeah. I'm gonna still say a miss.
All right.
I gave Svebor's a miss. I'm gonna give Raquel's a fumble simply because he called it Godian magic.
Nice.
No.
I'm a mild hit because I like the idea of giving them like patron-like write-ups and having more meat on the bone for the gods, even if it's not exactly like that, or that the system was slightly different. I'm gonna go with it. So, Judge Jonathan, there you go. We get to Judge Tim, our old friend Judge Tim Duchesne. Says this was an email. Hello, Spellburners. This was a tough question for me, but I think I came up with one change. If I were to change anything about the core rules, I'd add a Spellburn recovery table, similar to Linkmar Luck carousing rules. I didn't. So in episodic games, it's too easy to say I didn't Spellburn at all during downtime and recover all of your burned abilities, which just leads to the wizard, what he calls the wizard/elf nuke cycle. We all know what that is, right? This giant burning down with no consequences, that kind of thing. So let's make recovery a gamble. You want to recover 20 points, roll a d20 or higher. The higher the result, the more points recovered, and the more likely something terrible and or interesting happened because of your Spellburn. So you get a roll to recover, to see how much you recover, but you also might roll that there were some delayed impacts from your Spellburn, if I read this right, which I think is very intriguing. So anyway, he says maybe you tore open a phlogistotic rift and let something monstrous through, and it's hungry for energy, etc., etc. Anyway, he says excessive Spellburn has been a topic since its release, from DCC's release. I don't think the answer is limiting it. Offer an interesting choice and let the results add flavor and consequences to your campaign. I gave this like my A+ crit. I just love that idea very much. Judge Jen, what do you think?
Second.
Alrighty.
Yeah, for sure. Third, crit table.
Oh,
Yeah, I love the idea of a table for this stuff and more chances for more bad stuff to happen. Sounds great to me.
well, triple crit. Tim
Nice.
has won. Tim has won DCC. Okay.
Of course.
All right. Judge Tim. I think that. Oh
Nope,
no, that's
we're on to
Judge
the
Tim.
next one.
Okay, Jamikia says I'd add death saves at 5 luck a pop.
This
I'm
is yeah, and this is one that I saw on Blue Sky on the Spellburn account.
Yep.
And I'm assuming I'm going out on a limb that instead of rolling the body, or maybe if you failed your result to roll the body, you can spend 5 luck and up you go. You're fine with the 5, 5 luck lighter, but alive.
Oh, I would hit that. I would call that a light hit because luck is still a resource that you're managing to separate the character from.
Yeah,
And
I'd call it a
chances are
hit too.
never going to be able to do it again.
That's right.
I say no, you are dead. You are dead, dead. So sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I think for some groups it's a great house rule, and I fully encourage people to use it. But I think as written, it's perfect the way it is. So
Yeah.
that's all. Next, Judge Joshua Burnett says, I would get rid of spell levels. What's the difference between a first level spell and a third level spell when the casting results vary so wildly? I'd most split them into basic and advanced spells for the unusually powerful stuff. And it was a little unclear because, of course, what the number that you need to get a success is lower for first level versus higher for higher level stuff. So if you just mean write them all so that they're all a 12 is a mild success and up to 32 and so on, I sort of like that idea because, in a way they all become just magic spells that have a variety of results. And it makes sense to me. And I don't care about leaving the tradition of D&D and spell levels behind. I don't think it's that interesting. So I give it a hit. What do you guys think? Judge Jen.
James, what are you thinking?
I'll go. I think it's a hit. Maybe. I mean, he's got a point that the spells themselves represent a bunch of different levels of spells in D&D 3.5. Like if you read through the results, you slowly start seeing like, oh, there's invisibility, improved invisibility, mass invisibility, improved mass invisibility, greater improved mass. I don't know what the end of that whole chain is, but it's all in that one spell, right? So I can see his point of that it really doesn't matter, and maybe it is more performative, like levels and leveling up and that kind of stuff. I could see it.
Okay, sounds good.
I can see it as an editor. I absolutely hate this idea. Yeah. I'm gonna say miss, but mainly because this is DCC. We're not supposed to be like all the other games. And I shouldn't have to use terminology from other games to tell people where to go. I want them to know that there is a strict codified, you have access to these, go.
The DNA of the game.
Yeah.
It's a fair point.
More or less, yeah.
Okay. Well, we're on our last email. And it is wonderful. It is wonderfully from our old friend Byron Stowe, John. And he's given us 3 things that he would change, though. So it's our last email, but
Dang it, John.
so the one thing I'd change, if I could, is to drop all bonuses and penalties that are merely math adjustments like +1, +4, blah, 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 and formalize them with the dice chain. It's what I do anyway for most of them, and the dice chain is right there. So make use of it. And I say hit. I totally agree. I think we even had Michael Curtis on the thing once, and I was like, they should all just be dice chains. Who cares? Get rid of +1s. And he was like, no, no, no. I don't know. Anyway, but there's no question in my mind. Always use the dice chain. What do you guys think? What, James, you're up first.
Yeah, a hit, maybe a critical hit. I'm going to go critical hit.
Oh.
I think, if we look at when the game was created and where it was coming from, and it took the combat tables and kind of just plopped them down in the middle of the combat section without, kind of straight over. Some are dice chain adjustments, but most of them are plus twos or whatever. I think it should have just leaned into that idea from the outset and kind of abandoned that 3.5 table.
Fair enough. And Judge Jen, what do you think?
I'm going to say critical hit, and I'll take in between steps on that too. Get the full run from Impact Miniatures. And yes,
Ooh.
you're going to roll a D17. Yeah,
Ooh,
wow.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Nice and simple on that one.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
cool. All right. Very nice. Number 2, other one thing I'd change, and it's not a rules change, but a layout change, is that I'd alphabetize all the spells, even the patron spells, to make it easier to look them up. Well, just as a guy who has to look in the book for spells a lot, I call that a hit. But I'd say the proviso is that Judge Jen has to reorganize all the spells ever published for DCC. In addition, like just work nights to do this and just do a giant, and also the Weird Frontiers potions and all that.
No, no, Goodman Games, canon. But I would love to pull every single spell or magic item or patron listed in any of the modules from 66.5 and up. I would love to have a compendium of, what was it, a case book of Apocrypha?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
that sounds like a hit to me.
Can I give it an extra gold star crit?
Sure.
Yeah. John's on a roll. What else you got?
All right. Yeah. He's got 2 items, at least 2 items that both got crits. What, Judge James, what do you say?
Only if Josh Burnett's desires come true, where there are no levels, then it makes sense.
Very conditional. Okay,
Yes.
well I think that makes sense.
By level?
I guess it's a miss because I don't think it's a. It's not a hit. It's a miss. I don't think this is necessary. John, understand that there's levels and they're alphabetized in levels. That's it.
Yes. Fair enough.
If nothing else, we should at least alphabetize the entire list of them, even if not.
We should alphabetize all the headings of all the sections and all the classes. It should all be alphabetized. Completely alphabetized game.
Yeah.
No order other than alphabetized.
All the characters should just be A's and then B's and then C's and then.
Let's use variables. Okay. Yes, variables too.
We're getting a little punchy. So it's
getting late.
Third paragraph.
The other one.
The other one thing I'd change is I would formalize the Wilson rules, the Wilson rule within the rules themselves. If anyone doesn't know what the Wilson rule is, also known as the unofficially official crit rule, keep all your normal D20 crits right where they are, just as they are, and when you go up the chain, a nat 24 and a nat 30 are also crits. So if you're rolling on a D30, you get a crit on a 20 and a 24 and on a 20, a 24 and a 30. That's what I'm understanding him to say. I say yes. I mean, I give it a hit. I say sure. I like that. I mean, why not? Because the whole point of having a better die is you shouldn't be screwed out of having crits just because you're rolling on a better die. You should be kicking more butt. Makes sense to me.
Going for though.
What's that?
I'm not sure if that's what he's going for.
No, he's like it's a crit on a 20, a crit on 24, and a crit on a 30. If you're rolling a die 30, you have 3 chances to crit.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's late. Sorry.
No, no problem.
Yeah.
Critical hit. Absolutely. Hundo. If it's the unofficial official crit rule,
There you
it's
go.
the official unofficially official crit rule, then I would totally make that canon.
All right, and
I think that was the rule. I mean, it's what I've been using too, so I'll take that as a crit.
I think there is some
Mm-hmm.
strangeness in the rules around this point. But anyway, it's quite good. And
Phlogistonically yours. Yep.
yes, Judge John says phlogistonically yours and not at all under Agesh, Judge John. All right. Well, Tim, you somehow managed 3 crits in this episode, so that was excellent. And everybody who gave us input, we really appreciate it. It was a very, really interesting bunch of suggestions. I promise you, all these rules will be carefully sifted through by Michael Curtis for include. No, they won't. But listeners will think about them and talk about them and do Gong Farmers almanacs on them. And you never know. Who knows? Maybe they will be in an annual or something someday. So thank you, everybody who contributed. We really appreciate it. One person who definitely gets 3 criticals is Alana for hanging out with us late on a Monday night. Our YouTube goddess. And another person who always gets 3 crits is Judge Bob, who's patiently helping me with all our editing. Appreciate very much. And a last person who always gets 3 crits is our patron AI, Judge Jim, for hosting, maintenance, and recovering episodes as needed. So thanks to you guys. Thanks to Glitter Wizard, Loot the Body, and St. Karloff for permission to use their music. And of course, you can email us at spellburnband@gmail.com anytime. Send us your questions, comments, feedback, and suggestions for the rules, right? Maybe there's a 2026 version. Thanks a lot. And other than that, just game on.
Listening to Spellburn. Our theme song has been graciously provided by Glitter Wizard.